Anyway, do you want to get back in Watchmen? This is I'm going to try to do another intro here. I haven't.
Brief interlude.
Just in case they didn't. I lost the other one. So this is Fat, Dumb, and Angry coming back at you again with, I don't know, some bullshit. This is episode blah. Season blah. By Nick Blah. So
it's timeless classics.
Yeah, thanks for checking it out. N-word. I'm going to cut that out for sure. I don't know why I said that. Shit, Nick. Dig that out. Anyway.
I thought you were going to start with your classic catchphrase.
Cunfags. Get in here, cunfags. This is all good material. I'm going to use all this. Anyway. So, the intro thing, we've been talking about Watchmen a little bit, but we haven't really talked about Dr. Manhattan that much, which I think is interesting because it's like, he's like the godlike character.
It's the blue penis.
The first time we went to see that movie, Zack Snyder's vision was ruined because a group of teenage girls were behind us going, "Look at the blue penis. You think it's gonna get hard?" It didn't. I wanted to spoil that for them, but I wanted them to stay interested in the movie.
Your dreams aren't coming true.
Yeah. So that was a good night.
Well, I was going to switch it over to two different comic books because politically influenced type of thing. One I've been watching recently because I recently got a gator, with the whole COVID thing.
Oh, yeah.
For Rorschach.
Okay.
So Watchmen. And then also V for Vendetta, but I mostly wanted to focus on Watchmen with you.
Yeah, I don't know too much about V for Vendetta, unfortunately, but...
All right, so maybe we'll skip that one.
I've read Watchmen. One of my friends gave me, let's borrow the book. Me and my brother both read it and then gave it back. It's a good read. I don't think I quite understood all of it then, but I have to say, really interesting. I actually really enjoyed the movie, Zack Snyder's movie. I know a lot of people hate Zack Snyder, but I enjoyed the movie.
I think people came around on him because people were begging for that Snyder cut of Justice League. But 300 and Watchmen, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I know they changed it, like the ending and that kind of stuff, but that's understandable too. It's interesting actually, because I've been looking into a bunch of history stuff with comics, and I was watching a video about one, I think, CEO or something of one of them, DC or something like that, whenever the Watchmen was coming out. But because this guy was talking about how he was a good CEO or something like that because he didn't force things. And so one example he used was that when Alan Moore finished The Watchmen, he actually went to Alan Moore and suggested that, well, maybe you should take a second shot at the ending. But Alan Moore was like, no, that's the perfect ending. That's what I want. But he actually, with a lot of people thinking the giant squid monster thing,
yeah,
this is the ending. And it's so interesting to see that, somebody actually went to him and gave him the option to change it, and they didn't. But Zack Snyder decided to, and I don't blame somebody for making that choice. But
well, I mean, it's one of those hard arguments, right? Because some people get pissy about stuff. I remember people got pissy about Hemdall being a black dude, even though I love Idris Elba.
Why is there no white people in Wakanda? There's black people in Asgard. Why can't there be white people in Wakanda?
I think the Inquirer put it best, if I'm thinking of the right magazine.
Oh, it was the most diverse cast.
Black Panther is hella diverse.
Hella diverse.
I'm just like, oh, okay,
and
sure.
And then they'll write articles being like, no, diverse doesn't mean the end of white people. But by the way, hella diverse, no white people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's...
What do you think about, what conversation that gets brought up sometimes, maybe with my brother or other people? They'll talk about, it seems like they'll be like, oh, you like Rorschach? Well, Rorschach's supposed to be a parody on right-wing ideas or something like that.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because I don't know, okay, so I love masks.
Yeah, it's a funny parody, but unfortunately he's right, isn't he?
I love masks. I've always loved masks. With this whole COVID gator thing, I've actually been kind of enjoying it, except for going to the gym, because I think masks are cool. They kind of, nobody knows exactly what you're thinking, all that. It's not the most healthy way to live when everybody's wearing masks, but anyways, that's a little bit of psychoanalysis from me, but
okay.
I decided to get a gator. I'm like, well, what the fuck? I want to get something that I'm going to enjoy wearing that I think's cool. And so I was thinking of like different masks. I saw some for Batman, for Superman. Like, these all fucking suck. And then I thought of Rorschach. And I found one on some right-leaning website that it's not only a gaiter just to cover up to your nose or whatever, but you can pull it up and yeah, the top, your hair is showing, but it's a full mask.
That's cool.
It looks cool as hell.
Yeah.
But after getting that, I kind of started watching clips from Watchmen of Rorschach, because he was my favorite character when I saw that initially, but I just I want a refresher. And then I went down the rabbit hole. I started reading the Wikipedia about him, and I saw the exact thing you were talking about, which is kind of why I brought up Watchmen, where Alan Moore said he was disappointed that Rorschach has become one of the best-known characters of Watchmen, because he was supposed to, I don't know if the word parody came up, but he was supposed to be the most extreme right-wing, like, not likable right-wing, not moderate in any way, black and white like his mask.
It's the most hilarious thing, because what I'm thinking of is what they don't say, which is the opposite, right? Which is, so they must be sitting there thinking, well, obviously Ozymandias is left-wing policy. And they're like, well, he obviously knows what he's talking about. He's going to save the world. Yeah, he's going to kill a bunch of people. He's going to genocide a bunch of people for no good reason.
I was about to say, please tell me somebody actually said that.
No, they
it's
probably
like,
don't want to say it, but that's probably exactly what they're thinking, because Rorschach and Ozymandias are like the opposites to each other.
Yeah. Ozymandias says, do it for the good of the people. And Rorschach says, the people need to know the truth, which he's almost...
If the people choose to kill themselves, maybe we should let them. They want to nuke each other. Whoa!
Yeah.
But...
I mean, it's one of those things like Jesus take the wheel with Rorschach, whereas like Ozymandias is like Jurassic Park. We got to control the fate and play God and make everything work. And that's just not... As noble as that idea is, and how much it makes sense, like, make everybody feel... well, that's the thing. It's like, make everybody feel afraid something's going to come after them, so we all have to unite. And that's not a healthy way to do it.
Did you know Alan Moore wrote this to be a parallel to the Holocaust? He said that in many interviews, that like...
You gotta be shitting me.
No, yeah, exactly. That's what he said, is that the Holocaust is just like this. It's a faked kind of thing to unite humanity against something, Nazism, evil. That's...
You're shitting me. So he's a Holocaust denier, but he wanted Rorschach to be the fucking, like, worst part of the movie. Please tell me you're just fucking with me.
I mean, I hope I'm right, but I'm making it up. But it sounds good.
So you're not fucking with me. You just don't know what you're talking about. That's fine.
I'm saying it matches up too nicely.
I mean...
left-wing policies? I mean, come on.
Well, that's
okay. Kind of the whole thing between... I mean, we're not going to get stuck on World War II, but what was it? Between? It was between the communists and the Nazis, the left and the right. But anyway...
Yeah.
Getting back into Alan Moore and his known Holocaust denial. Alan Moore once said that Rorschach, his face represents all the Holocaust victims because it never takes a form, because there are no... Yeah, we might just cut all this out. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes.
That's why I'm saying it.
You know what?
So I can choose if I want to keep it in or not.
Well, it's like the okay sign all of a sudden becoming white power, Sometimes you can just meme things into fucking existence.
Maybe I can make Alan Moore a Nazi. I'm going to meme Alan Moore into being a Nazi.
I don't know how old the man is, but I think you may kill him with that one if you made it a big thing.
Sorry, Alan. Your time's up. Hashtag me too. What you did to Silk Spectre.
Oh, God.
Well, actually, okay, so... Is Rorschach really more of the right-wing character than the comedian?
See, I was just thinking about that. I don't know. I mean, because... They both, like, the thing I read in the Wikipedia, because it had been a while since I read the comic or watched the movie, was that the only person that Rorschach ever respected was the comedian, and he brushed off his rape of, what's the female character's name?
Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre, thank you. Sorry, I know you just said...
names that they moved.
Yeah.
Isn't that also...
That it was a lapse in judgment.
See, this is why I like these writers, is because they'll do things that... happen in reality, but people don't like to write about. So, like, for example, taking something like the Silk Spectre getting raped by the comedian, right? But then also later choosing to have his kid. Like
she even still
and it wasn't
loved him.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't from the rape either. They had sex later or something like that, or like, and it's such an interesting like dichotomy of like real life. Like that's how real life happens sometimes. It's like it's not so clean cut as just rapist evil. Sometimes rapist daddy. Hashtag rapist daddy.
Good Lord.
Anyway, so
but yeah, no, that's a very abusive relationship.
And I would say that the comedian is way more of the right-wing character, but he doesn't get the hate that Rorschach does. I think Rorschach gets all the hate because he's so popular.
Now defend that argument. Why do you say the comedian is more right-wing?
I would say like Rorschach would be like, you've seen The Political Compass, right?
I'd put him at libertarian if I was going to pick something else.
Like if this is the right the upper right, he's like here, but the comedian's like all the way up there, I think, because the comedian does not, as opposed to Rorschach, right, who was closer to Batman, I would say, who was somebody who would like investigate, like he would kill, right, but it seemed like he made an effort to not kill the police, like he hurt them. But when he fought them, it's not like he went full out. Like you saw him when he went full out when he was in the prison and he just was able to maim and like, because he can be extremely violent when he needs to be, but he has this moral code where he doesn't want to hurt people that don't deserve it. I think
he's very rigid morally. Again, the whole black and white thing.
But it's also something where it feels like he's one of those characters, yes, who even with things he doesn't agree with, he would let them happen to a certain extent. While the comedian seemed more like he was willing to do the nitty gritty. Like he was at that point where you go way further in your beliefs, where you're committing yourself to doing like evil in the name of what you think is good. Like I think that would be the difference between the two, is that Rorschach, maybe the difference is that he's more deluded, but Rorschach thinks he would go out of his way to avoid doing evil, while the comedian wouldn't go out of his way to avoid doing evil, like you saw when he shot the pregnant woman in Saigon or wherever.
Yeah.
Like he did not give a fuck because his belief, like I don't know, you know, his like he was fine killing people, the crowd control, like that kind of stuff. You saw him being like,
why do you connect that to right wing?
Why do I connect that to right wing? I would say because, and this might be a weird bias that people have, because I don't think it's entirely true, but it's like being, what's the word I'm looking for? Pro-government or something like that, where I think that's a more right-wing belief than left-wing belief is, though the left-wing likes organization, I don't think they like government, because they're really easy at organizing, right? But
they want the government to take care of them, is what I've been led to believe.
Yeah, but I don't entirely believe that. I believe that they would take anything. They would take corporation. They would take community.
Yeah.
They would take any kind of giant overarching thing to take care of them. It wouldn't be government. But I think that the more right-wing thing is government, because government might exist on a meritocracy or something like that. There exists traditions, there exists like these rules and these things that force like, I don't know, I mean, I obviously got skewed beliefs, but like I think the right-wing is more, like traditional purity, like these kind of beliefs of like, I don't know. And so actually, that's why I would say it's right wing. He believes in guns.
Because I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm just trying.
No, but that's the thing is, you make a good point. Because I can make a good argument for why he's more extreme than Rorschach, because he's definitely whatever Rorschach is, he's the more extreme version because he goes way further. But how do you define him? Why would he be defined as right wing? I guess would be the idea of, You know, isn't that the most insane thing is that the only thing I can think of right now to describe him as a right wing would be his beliefs maybe of groups, his beliefs maybe of like Americanism, of patriotism of some kind. That might be the only thing of like thinking that like, well, I have this idea of how the world should work or how the world does work or what's good, and I want that to work for Americans, and I don't care about everyone else. And I think that might be closer to right-wing than anything else, right? Because the left, I think, is now becoming a global organization.
Yeah, it's what's the populism versus...
So that was a good question, and I think I finally got an answer somewhere.
No,
I got somewhere.
That's a good answer, and I'll tell you my, not necessarily rebuttal, but my 2 cents on the matter and see what you think of it. I don't know if I agree with him being more right-wing than Rorschach, and the reason I say that is because I consider, and maybe this is why you see it as right-wing, I see him as more of a capitalist nihilist, and Rorschach is the capitalism part, which would be the right
Rorschach's
way.
still an idealist, probably to some extent, I would say, right?
He's like the religious right. There's good and bad. There's no in between. There's no gray area. Whereas,
well, I mean, I would say absolutely, right? Because he's like compared to a lot of the other characters, he's willing to die for what he believes in, and he's not afraid to do it. He just goes right ahead and does it. Well, because he knows that's what, or at least he believes that's what's right.
And it's the belief of just there is no gray. Whereas, like, you know, with the comedian, there was a gray area. He would kill kids. I mean, he at the end when he was, you know, crying on Moloch's bed, drinking, you know, whiskey or whatever, crying his brains out or his eyes out, saying like, you know, I did things, I killed kids, you know, all this stuff, and he, you know, he raped. Why do I keep forgetting your name? For God's sake,
Silk Spectre.
Silk Spectre. Thank you.
And I gotta say, it's very interesting that the comic book begins with his murder, and you would imagine that Ozymandias, who killed him, would start with who would give him the most trouble, and that would be the comedian.
You'd think it'd be Rorschach.
Was he thinking the comedian would be the... I would think, like, Dr. Manhattan... Well, Dr. Manhattan was out of the picture at that point, or...
I think he was either out of the picture, or for some reason I'm under the impression I remember seeing he was agreeing, and it wasn't the whole I don't condone or...
No, he wasn't out of the picture yet, if I remember correctly.
I think they talked about it, and they were like...
Because I thought he went to visit Silk Spectre, and she was still with him, and she... left him for Owl Man or whatever.
Yeah, that character. Supposedly that was supposed to be a Batman character as well. I mean,
and actually, they used him, I think. And in the flashback when he's punching, it's Bruce and his parents. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, no.
That's the original Owl Man.
I was thinking, because I think DC. Was DC Comics the original people to release Watchmen or not? But either way, they either got the rights, and so because the Owlman character is way too similar to another Owlman character who's like an evil version of Batman from the Crime Syndicate, which is on Earth 2. Which, if you don't know about the Crisis on Infinite Earths and all this kind of stuff in the DC universe, there's Earth like 1, 2, whatever. They keep going, but on Earth 2...
I know about it from Batwoman.
On Earth 2, there's the Crime Syndicate, which instead of the Justice League, and so the evil Batman there is called Owlman or something like that.
Oh, I do remember that, because I wonder if it's a natural thing. Well, I guess it is, because there's a comic, and none of you can see where we're sitting, but we're at my place, and there's a mask.
Tell them drone strikes are on the way.
Oh shit! Oh, it's Obama.
Ms. Obama, get down.
There's 2 masks up on my wall. One is V for Vendetta, and one is
Court of Owls.
The Court of Owls.
Ooh,
I didn't know if you knew, but yeah.
I wanted to prove that I knew something.
And The Court of Owls, it's an amazing comic, and so that's the second time they've used the owl as the antithesis to Batman. And I think I remember reading in the first Court of Owls comic that owls eat bats, which I did not realize, because I love barn owls and I love Batman, so it's like weird for me to connect the two, and it's like I love both these things, but one kills the other.
We're talking about The Boys now.
Yeah, and it's full spoiler alert, so if you don't want to know, then fuck off, I guess. I don't know. But to quote the butcher, fuck off cunt.
The cool thing that they really went into in the comic books is explaining the process of the superheroes as well. Like they kind of delving into it in the TV show too, but I think they did a better job in the comic books for some reason, making it more like understandable. Like Homelander came off as actually a pretty understandable character in the comic books at a point, because he seemed insane at first, right, with all the stuff with Butcher, but then eventually you learn his backstory about like, all right, so he was made in a lab, they strapped nuclear bombs to his butt for the first like 10 years of his life to blow him up in case he just did something. They don't know, right?
Yeah, well, because he killed the entire doctor staff that
he
birthed them,
because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Like, so in the comic books, they really give you a better feeling of like these were people raised in environments where they were never normal. Like they don't know what normal is, right? They never had these human like I don't know, and so when you're watching like them have their actions, like it makes so much more sense, because of course they don't feel normal because they know they're not normal. They were born into this environment, told they're not normal, that they're super people, that normal people are afraid of them. And so I don't know. I feel like it did a better job explaining the what's the word I'm looking for? Not the sociopathic feeling like the supers have.
Method to the madness.
Yeah, like, you know, because they seem crazy, right? That they have like, I mean, I know in the TV show they seem more human, like for some reason, but in the comic book, like that's the thing, is because they didn't have social media, they didn't have all that shit.
Yeah.
Homelander did not give really a fuck what people thought about him. Like in the TV show, yeah, he's all worried about like what people think.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the discredits the TV show does, is it kind of ruined Homelander a little bit, but I feel like they're trying to maybe make him more of a character by giving him more of an arc and tearing him down to build whatever.
Well, see, and this might be something you and I disagree on, because...
But he was way more of like, in the comic books, he was way more of like a Superman character, right? Where you saw him as like this peak. He was like this monolith of a person, but then you start to learn his backstory, and not only is like, he just can't connect to normal people because unfortunately how he was brought into the world and how he was raised, and he's like fucked with, and like, you know, he's like, of course he's a little nuts, because like, you know, this whole thing with like the pictures, right? Mm-hmm. And like because that's pretty early on in the history of the boys in the comic books, because they first made a team with like Mallory, like a different guy or whatever, before Huey got brought in, and all this stuff kind of happened with Mallory's granddaughters being lit on fire by lamplighter or whatever, and
and that's a whole different thing too, from what I read.
And so it's like, but so you get this back kind of feeling of like Homelander slowly losing it because these pictures of him, and it's crazy because in the comics they make it like Homelander is actually might be a normal, like he might actually be able to be a person who gets along with, you know, the boys and the world, but all of a sudden he's faced with these pictures of things that he's done, and it kind of makes him think he's that person, though he hasn't actually done those things. And then you see the progression of him
with Photoshop. Like, you know, there's no reason for him to doubt that it was him, and it was amnesia.
And you see, exactly. And you don't really get him murdering an entire airplane full of people until after that happens. Until after he's like confronted with those pictures of him. Because before that, the big thing they did was they botched 9/11, but that wasn't Homelander killing these people. That was him just being like, all right, we fucked up, I'm out of here because I'm not going out with the plane. So he just left. Like, he didn't kill them on purpose. He was just like, well, fuck, we're not trained to be superheroes, we don't know what we're doing actually. And that's also one of the things I really wish they kept in, because they had the plane scene in The Boys, but it was supposed to be 9/11, and I feel like that adds so much more context, because in the comic books, I know I'm getting way off there, but
do you think that was a budget thing though?
I think it's just because they don't really want to do 9/11. Because in the comic books, what it was is that it was a different 9/11, where in their universe, it wasn't on the trade centers. They were attacking different places with planes, but the president was ready for it. And in that universe, it was swapped, right? So Dick Cheney was the president in Garth Ennis's mind, so he made that person like a warmonger and all that stuff. And George Bush was the vice president.
It's kind of like the Harrison Biden thing.
Yeah, I know. And so in that universe, they were ready for this, and so they had military planes in the air, and they shot down all the planes, killing American citizens and all that shit, which is, I think, really cool because it gives us a different outlook on 9/11. Like, what if they had planes in the air and they killed all the airplanes? How would we feel about that? Would we be pissed like, well, fuck, we shot down all the planes. It should have been something better. We could have done. But anyway, the cool part of the story was that they stopped from shooting down the last plane because the vice president hits the president over the head with a fire extinguisher, though nobody sees it, knocks him out. And because he's like a retard, like a George Bush kind of like figure, he just repeats what the Vought company told him to say, which was like, stand down the jets or whatever. And so they do it. So the superheroes get a chance to save the day, and they completely fuck it up. And the plane crashes into the Brooklyn Bridge instead of the towers. It's the Brooklyn Bridge. And I think
still kills people.
I think that would have been because there's supposed to be like a parade or a race on the bridge or whatever. So the bridge was full of people as well.
Hear that part.
And that's, of course, but anyway, so that just really would have been a really interesting bit of context of like a different rehashing of 9/11, which I really think would have been really cool to see on a TV show. But I understand why they didn't do it. But it's that kind of stuff of the Homelander character that made him, I think, to me, in the comic books more interesting. And also, he wasn't in the comic books. He had his issues with like being afraid of the company because he knew the company had like just like Butcher, the pictures or whatever on him. So he was always a little like afraid to confront the company, but he wasn't a little bitch like he is in the thing in like the TV show now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, like, right?
Okay, the newest episode, you saw the newest one, right?
Yeah.
And it has that little like fantasy scene where he's mowing everyone down with the laser eyes. I'm like, nice. So they're finally doing. Oh no, it's a little fantasy scene.
Well, that was another one of those ones that kind of shocked me when it first happened, because I was like, oh, I think I literally reacted like, I'm like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden it's just him. Like, that was almost like that, like I said, American Psycho moment. The thing I disagreed that they with what they did with that was, and I know they had to do it to progress the story a bit, but I didn't like they killed Sitwell. I liked the idea of Homelander being somebody that was so perfect and so powerful that none of the other 7 messed with him. But Sitwell always had control over him to some degree. And when they killed her, like, that kind of... So now he's the captain, or, like, he's the leader, as opposed to... I forget what the woman's name that took over for Stillwell.
Yeah.
The mousy one.
Yeah, I don't know what her name is.
But, like...
Elizabeth Moss ripoff or something? Or, you know what I'm going for.
Yeah. But like when they replaced Stillwell with her, and like now it's basically Homelander running the show, like I see what they're doing. I see the steps they're making. They're trying to make it so they like Maeve and the boys and Starlight all want to take Homelander down, but I liked it better when he was perfect, but he had those moments where he was just absolutely fucking sinister. That actor that plays Homelander is phenomenal.
Oh, there's some truly great scenes of him in the comic books. Oh, just of like... So around the end of the series, because the whole thing, which I don't know if they're going to go into it as much, because John Esposito, I think, is the guy who's now playing like the boss. I always get the names wrong or whatever. But anyway,
Gus.
Yeah. In the comic books, they had a great 3-part kind of storyline in a weird way, where a main character was the Vought company guy, right? Who was like with the superheroes, who was kind of like the that woman character who they killed off.
Stillwell, yeah.
Which, if they kept her on, was kind of supposed to be like, it was like that character. It was like the Butcher and the Boys and Homelander and the 7. And they all had their different things, but they were going for it. Vought just wanted superheroes in the military so they could get just more money, I guess. I don't know. Butcher, or not.
Well, it's adding it like religion to government. It's adding superheroes to government and corporate ties hand in hand.
Butcher just wanted to get rid of all superheroes because it's really interesting how he's like the main character, but he's just kind of like, there's so many parts where you're like, wait a second. this is racism, but with superheroes.
Well, that was the one thing I didn't like. And again, Nick is going to be the pro on this because I legit spent, I think, the past 2 days just watching through YouTube videos of this guy explaining the characters from the comics and how they compare to the characters in the show. But, like, I like the Butcher from the show better, and maybe it's because I find him relatable, because the Butcher from the comics, as far as I'm aware, he's fucking brutal. Like, he does not, he was always just like, he had 2 people, I think this guy said, that calmed him down, his wife who died, and then maybe his brother, or maybe that's just the show, but like there were very few people that made him normal, but otherwise he was always aggressive, starting fights, and he just seemed like the Chad dickhead type. I hate to use that term, but like it with Carl Urban, he thought his wife was raped by Homelander and then killed.
I did like it better when the wife was dead. I didn't like that they kept her alive. I didn't like that they actually kept the kid alive too. I wish they kept the original story where he killed the baby.
Yeah.
I know that's a little gruesome. They probably didn't want to, but...
Well, I mean, the thing for me is, again, I'm tired of seeing guys being made to look like shit, because, like, oh, he's a super freak. It's like, oh, he said something racist about the baby, so the love of his life's going to reject him, and so that's enough. It's like, why do... I mean,
but the problem is that it would make sense if his wife was dead, right? Like, you could buy his hatred, right?
Yeah.
Being irrational if he had no other choice in life. If his wife was dead and he killed the baby or whatever, there's no going back at that point, right? He can never have her again. And so you could almost understand his hatred, but they have to keep her alive for some reason because, I don't know probably why, but same thing why they're doing with, just so you know, like these characters, they're very much, I think you draw a lot of parallels with, I was going to say Homelander, with probably like the idea with white masculinity or with something like that.
Well, especially with Stormfront. Now we can say that. Stormfront went from being a male Nazi guy in the comic. There's a lot of changes there. I don't know in terms of her superpowers, but like...
I was going to, her superpowers, I guess, they're pretty close to the same. But the problem with the TV show, too, is that everybody's so tuned down. It's like they look so much weaker in the show.
Well, part of that, I think, is budget.
Yeah.
Part of it, too, is like my favorite thing I read recently was somebody making a comment about Homelander, and they're like, I love how his muscles are sewn into his suit because it shows how fake his outside... Oh, you just did that because you found the actor, but he couldn't get in shape fast enough? Cool. And like apparently that's a story. I'm like, I was wondering about that. I'm like, it looks nice on camera, but I'm like, they couldn't have him do the Hugh Jackman treatment or like Chris Evans, whatever. He actually would have been a better Captain America. I'm sorry.
You think so?
Yes. In terms of look. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Chris Evans, but he has the face for it and he has the acting chops. I mean, I am so impressed with that dude. Like just like the going from being, let's take a selfie. Yeah. You know, you guys are the real heroes to like just slaying people. And it's like just that juxtaposition is so well done. It's natural.
See, you know what the cool thing about the comics too is that this is kind of a weird thing too. I'm trying to look back on it now, and they talked about them fighting supervillains every now and again, which were also just owned by the company, but they didn't actually show them like fighting terrorists or fighting. Most of the time, they were just killing regular innocent people for no reason, for the most part. Like, it was after some church thing or whatever, where he was supposed to take this family to like dinner or whatever because they wanted dinner with Homelander. He just dropped him in the ocean. Just like, or like he killed a whole airplane full of people, or like he did like weird things like that. And it's like, I don't know, it's interesting. It's like they never showed him, but in the TV show they do make a point to show them doing things. I don't know, I kind of liked it better when it was just, I don't know, it's less realistic though. Because in the comic books they pretty much existed so they could make comic book movies. Like the 7 existed so the 7 MCU could exist.
Yeah.
So they could make movies and TV shows and like products for them. That's basically what it was. And they didn't really do much like saving of people because of 9/11, and they fucked up so hard in 9/11 they didn't like send them out to save people or do anything really. It's very interesting, huh? But
yeah, that is interesting.
I would say the Butcher character is a great character in my opinion because he's kind of like, I know Garth Ennis is probably just right because he has written the Punisher plenty of times before.
Oh, I'm
or no, not
well,
before, maybe, but yeah, he has. And you can definitely see the Punisher in Butcher, especially in the comics, because he does he murders like 200 superheroes just, like that, because, whatever, he doesn't care. And so I think that's a very interesting kind of character build in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
In the comic books, you got someone like Huey. Huey was different in the comic books too, because he was more of a bitch, and all he would do was complain. But he had the right heart, where like he didn't want to kill A-Train at the end or whatever, even though he did, because Butcher goaded him into it. But
yeah,
it's like he had the right heart, but he didn't have the stomach to do it, to do what needed done. But Butcher was the opposite. He didn't have the right heart, but he had the stomach to do what needed to be done. And it was interesting seeing a main character, a good guy, right? Like Butcher, you're supposed to see Butcher as a good guy, as like someone who you could see as like a racist or like an ist, right? Yeah. Homelander, I don't know. I guess Homelander probably did make racist comments in the book. I'm pretty sure he did in the comic books, and there was like a lot of weird gay stuff too every now and again. But he was like, it's not gay, we're superhero.
Weird gay stuff in the show,
but it wasn't like him having a hatred for something so pure that Butcher did for superheroes. Like he had like a racist hate for them, and like
he was going like full Hitler, whereas like Homelander's just straight KKK, I guess.
Oh, conspiracy theory time.
Ooh.
Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be a good one. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. It was a planned thing because they've been deep faking Biden, so they came up with a gaffe so bad that you wouldn't think it wasn't Biden. So it was. I bet that was written. It was delivered. It wasn't even Biden doing it, but because now nobody would question that, right? Everyone thinks, oh, that was just Biden being fucking retarded. But
I mean, I don't know.
That's conspiracy theory. That's conspiracy theory.
No, I mean, I like the theory. It's good.
Oh, you like that theory? I can come up with better ones.
I mean, I don't know about deepfake. I don't know if he's being deepfaked. That's the thing. Because I've heard people say that about Kamala, too. It's like...
She's being pumped. They're making her titties bigger. They're deep faking her titties.
Titty fake. But, like, saying, like...
It's disgusting.
Comparison of her skin tone and, like, if she got a facelift and stuff. I'm like... There's stuff I think people don't realize, not being in film... Uh-oh. And not to be a douchey person, but, like... Lighting and the lens you use on a camera can really make all the difference in how somebody looks. It's actually astonishing. Like, the images I saw of Kamala Harris, and again, I'm not defending her or anything, but I'm saying, like, they use one image where it's her at, like, a speech, like a rally, and they got a good picture of her, and there's a lot of cool lighting. Cool meaning more bluish. And then there's one from CNN, I think, or somewhere like that, or MSNBC, I don't fucking know, where they were interviewing her. And it was warm lights, and they were very bright. She almost looked blown out. And so when you do that, you take away the wrinkles in the face, so she looks like she got a facelift. She looks warmer, so her skin tone changes. So as much as I love my conspiracy theories...
She getting blacker? No, they never usually makes it black.
No, they don't do that. But
going down the polls. That's a bad joke, I know.
But like my point being is, like, I know a lot of people tend to think that deepfake stuff, but it really, the camera and the lens do make a huge, the camera lens lights make a huge difference in how things are perceived.
Well, the camera lens, I know, because they make it look Weasley as fuck. You know, if it's a certain one, but I don't know, because Tim Pool, some of his videos coming out recently from a different position. It's funny how it just makes you look different.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. That was I was never a camera person, but I'm friends with a bunch of them, and I'm always impressed by what they could do just with zoom, lens, lighting, all that kind of stuff. It's really insane. I mean, the only thing I really learned out of it, which is the thing I said here, was warm and cool lighting. Warm being more amber and cool being more like fluorescence. And there is a difference how that lighting affects you. You know, if they want to make you look haggard and sleep deprived in a movie, they'll use more harsh lighting, like a cool lighting. But if they use warm lighting, it makes you think like soap operas and warmth. And it's fascinating how that can change your perspective.
Yeah, kind of looking back at I want to go back to talking about The Boys maybe, but I've been trying to take some screenshots for memes, right? And so many of The Boys shots are so dark and and of course that's probably the way they're going for the show. But then I was thinking about the other show that we were talking about too, Twin Peaks. And they got so many scenes that are so bright and
That's another one with warm lighting.
Yeah. Especially when it's like a woman and a guy talking to each other for the most part. But so in The Boys, what's your favorite character? It has to be Carl Urban, obviously, right?
Yes and no.
His name would be racist if he was black. That's a bad joke.
I wasn't expecting it though, and it took me a minute to think of it. I'm like, hold on a second,
Carl.
But I have two, and they're both for different reasons.
Right.
Butcher and Homelander. Because Homelander reminds me a lot of one of my favorite films, American Psycho.
Yeah, okay.
In the sense of, in American Psycho, for those of you, I don't think I'm spoiling much for those of you, and anyways, it's an old show, so spoiler alert, but it's about a businessman in the 80s, played by Christian Bale, who decides to just start murdering people because he's tired of his mundane Wall Street businessman life. But the way it was filmed was beautiful because you don't know whether it's all in his head or if it's he really did it and got away with it. You never know because that's how they did it. Much like Joker. Joker's another great example. The reason I use American Psycho is because in American Psycho, Christian Bale's character was super polite, super high class Wall Street guy. Some guy in the movie makes a joke about Jews and he goes, "Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks," and is just this smooth guy who's super PC and awesome, somebody that women would love to marry, successful, good-looking, six-pack, all that. But then you find out he's an absolute deviant psychopath who murders prostitutes, or so we think, because we don't know whether it's all in his head or if it's in real life. And Homelander's a lot like that. It's he has this perception of he's Superman, but then he does all this awful shit, and he does it with a straight face. One of the most brutal scenes for me, and it made me feel so bad, was that Daredevil ripoff.
That was so good, wasn't it? I didn't see that coming, actually.
I should have, and it shocked me. And there are two scenes, that one and the one with the Deep, which I know which one I'm talking about.
The one in the new season or the last one?
The old one.
Oh.
Is there one in the new season that grossed you out with the Deep?
Oh, I didn't know if you were talking about the...
I was talking about the...
That was actually pretty gross, but I think that was pretty telling of... it's a good idea.
No, it's great in what it did, and it was surprising.
It made everybody feel raped because it was just gross. Probably where we're going to start wrapping up. It was nice having you on, Unnamed Guest number 1. This is Fat, Dumb, and Angry, and I was gonna try something, a weird little bit here. I don't think it's gonna work, but I'm gonna do a little fan mail section where I got some fan mail I wanted to read real quick. Here we got another one from a fan, Jacob from Wisconsin. So level with me here. How much of hate is you wanting attention versus you being genuine? Are you posing like killing black people is awesome, or is it something you hold in your heart? He's autistic. He's beautiful. This is Charlize from Los Angeles. Shot by police. Shot by Antifa. Anti-protesters. You don't give a fuck. She's gay. This is Michael Richards from the Seinfeld show. This is Michael Richards from the Seinfeld show. Also, say nothing if you're a pedophile. I know you'd bone a 15-year-old if given the opportunity. You're a rapist. Now he knows me.
Yeah, that sounds a very personal relationship.